Look at her, she seems lost, maybe searching for her husband's aviator friends. Laughter spread through the group of young Marines. Corporal Davis, feeling brave, stood and walked over to her table. He leaned against it with his arms crossed in a way he thought looked cool and friendly. "Ma'am," he started with a smirk on his face, "that's quite a jacket you're wearing there. Are you really into naval pilots?" Lauren Taylor didn't respond right away. She finished her bite, had a drink of water, and then looked up to meet his gaze. Her eyes were calm and steady blue. "You could say so," she replied in a level, quiet voice. Her lack of reaction seemed to shake him, but only for a moment. He was performing for his friends who were watching carefully. "Right, well," he continued. "You know, we all have call signs around here. It's what pilots do." He gestured loosely toward the airfield visible through the windows. "I'm betting a jacket as cool as yours has a cool call sign too." "What's yours?" Top Gun's girlfriend, his friends laughed. The joke worked exactly as he planned. It was a little mean, a little dismissive, meant to show her that she didn't belong, that she was just a spouse, a regular person, not one of them. He expected her to blush, stammer, maybe get upset. He did not expect her to put her fork down slowly and carefully, look him straight in the eye, and respond without any hint of feeling. Black Mamba. The name floated in the air. Davis's smirk disappeared. The answer wasn't something he knew how to handle. It was too exact, too forceful. He'd made a casual joke, thrown out a challenge to a simple woman about her call sign. But the response felt like holding a loaded gun. For a moment that felt very long, there was awkward silence. The noise in the dining hall seemed to fade away. The young corporal suddenly felt like he'd walked into a space he didn't grasp. The name Black Mamba made him freeze. Davis blinked, uncertainty flashing across his face before confidence rushed back in to cover it. He forced out a laugh that was too loud and too sharp. "Black Mamba, sure, that's clever. But listen, ma'am, that's a real military jacket. Wearing something you're not allowed to wear on base can get you in serious trouble. It's against military rules." He was pushing forward, refusing to back down. His friends watching made it impossible for him to retreat. Lauren picked up her fork again, moving with purpose and control. "I know the uniform code of military justice, Corporal. Do you?" He pushed back, his voice getting louder. "That name tag says Taylor. And those patches," he squinted at a round patch on her right shoulder showing a skull in a pilot's helmet. "That's VMA Fat 101. The sharpshooters. They're a Hornet training squadron. That's for pilots preparing for the fleet." "Are you telling me you're a Hornet pilot?" The tone was hostile, not curious. He was accusing her, not asking. Several Marines nearby, older and more experienced, started watching with a mixture of annoyance and tired acceptance. They'd seen this happen before. A young, eager recruit picking a fight he couldn't win, but this felt different. The woman's calm was unsettling. "I've trained with the sharpshooters," Lauren said, her voice showing nothing. She took another bite of her chicken. Davis was growing annoyed. Her peace was like a wall he couldn't break through. He felt his control, the power his uniform gave him in this world, slipping away. He had to get it back. "Okay, look," he said, dropping his polite act. "Let me see your ID. If you're supposed to be wearing that, you'll have a military card that proves it." Without speaking, Lauren reached into a pocket on her flight suit, pulled out her wallet, and took out her access card. She held it toward him. Davis grabbed it. He looked down, ready to see a spouse card, a civilian worker badge, something that would prove him right and justify his challenge in front of everyone. Instead, he saw the green color of an active-duty officer card. He saw the name Taylor Lauren E., and he saw the rank 4 Major. His stomach went tight and cold. This was trouble, serious trouble, but his pride was stubborn. He couldn't just give it back and say he was wrong, not in front of his friends. He needed a different path out. One that didn't make him look foolish. He stared at the card like he was checking it closely. "This could be fake," he muttered. The accusation sounded thin even to his own ears. The photos, pretty unclear. It was taken at the DMV in Yuma. "Their cameras aren't very good," Lauren said, still showing no anger, but the chip works. "There's a reader at the front of the serving line if you want to check it." She was calling his bluff. Now he was truly trapped. To step back was to lose standing. To keep going was to walk into danger. He picked danger. "I don't need a reader," he said, his voice hard. He pointed at another patch on the jacket, a smaller, fancier one over her heart. "What about this one? The one with the pointed wing and the target. That's a WTI patch. You know what that stands for, ma'am? Weapons and Tactics Instructor. That's the best of the best. You get that at MAWTS 1. It's 7 weeks of pure difficulty. You don't simply receive one of those, you earn it through sweat and blood." He was sneering now. The words came fast and angry. He was protecting something he thought she was disrespecting just by being there. When his finger touched the patch, the dining hall sound twisted strangely in Lauren's ears, replaced for just a second by other sounds. The groan of an FA-18 straining against physical limits, the bitter taste of fear and urgency. Below, the dark, empty desert stretched out, a blank space broken only by the sudden, horrible flash of ground-to-wear fire. The sharp sting of electricity and sweat in her cockpit. The red glow of her instruments painting her face in strange light. A voice through her headset, shaky with static and terror. Viper 11, taking concentrated fire now, out of flares. We need a way out immediately. It was just a flash. A moment burned deep in her thoughts. A presence that lived inside the very threads the corporal was touching with such disrespect. The memory vanished as fast as it appeared, leaving just the normal sounds of the dining hall behind. Her attention came back to the young Marine in front of her. His face was flushed, pride radiating from him. He had no clue what that patch actually meant. For him, it was just a symbol. For her, it was a wound that never healed. Across the room, Master Gunnery Sergeant Cole, whose face showed 3 decades of service in the Marines, lowered his cup. He'd been watching the whole sad scene. At first, he figured it was just a young recruit needing something to do, but the woman's remarkable quiet and the corporal's mention of the WTI patch grabbed his focus. He studied her jacket more carefully. The VMA Fat 101 patch, the WTI patch, and a third one barely visible from a combat tour. This specific mix was uncommon, almost unheard of. Then he saw the name, Taylor. Cole felt fear run through him. The name, the patches, the call sign he'd heard the corporal mock. Black Mamba, it wasn't funny, it was a legend. A story told to new aviators to keep them sharp. A story he'd heard from a shaken recon leader who owed his life to a pilot with that name. He didn't get up, he didn't yell. A man with his rank and time knew that openly criticizing a corporal would be disrespectful and make things worse. Instead, he reached into his pocket, took out his phone with a steady hand, and found a number he barely ever called. He stood and walked toward the exit, pressing the call button. The person answered on the second ring. "Colonel Matthews," Sir Cole said, his voice quiet and urgent. "Master Gunnery Sergeant Cole." "I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but I think you need to get to the dining area right now." There was silence. "What's happening, Master Guns?" the colonel asked, sounding bothered at the break in his day. Cole took a breath. "Sir, I believe Major Taylor is here. The pilot from the Kandahar recovery, they call her Black Mamba." The quiet on the line was complete. Cole could almost sense the colonel thinking hard. When he finally spoke, the irritation was gone, replaced by serious, cold worry. "I'm heading there now." In his office, Colonel Matthews, the wing operations officer, hung up the phone with a sharp click. He stared ahead for a second, his thoughts moving fast. Major Taylor here. He had approved her short-term orders to come to Miramar to help plan a new training program, but he hadn't thought she'd arrive for another day, and he definitely didn't expect her first moment to be a fight in a dining hall. "Sergeant," he called out to his assistant sitting outside. "Get me the records for Major Lauren E. Taylor, call sign Black Mamba, and I need them now." A few quick keyboard presses later, the file popped up on the monitor. The colonel bent forward, his eyes moving across the lines of information as if seeing them for the first time. The summary was direct, stripped of feeling, which made it more striking. Taylor, Lauren E. Major, USMC. Military ID 7523. FA-18 fighter pilot. Total flight hours, 2,847. Combat flight hours, 612. The rest scrolled down, a list of brave actions. Air Medal with Combat Distinction 3 times, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal with Combat, and there it was, Distinguished Flying Cross. The summary was short, almost inappropriately brief for what it described, for exceptional flying skill and bravery. After her fighter took serious damage from enemy gunfire, Major Taylor, with superior flying skill and nerve, successfully flew her damaged FA-18 Hornet across 80 nautical miles of contested territory to a secure landing, keeping a critical military weapon and her own life safe. He kept reading. Her work history was a list of the toughest jobs in marine flying: active duty pilot, forward air controller, instructor at MAWTS-1. The file showed her teaching call sign was Viper, but her combat name, the one earned through battle, was right there too. Black Mamba. Matthews felt a surge of icy anger. One of the most honored combat aviators of her generation was being confronted by some young, untested corporal in his dining area. He grabbed his cap from his desk. "Get the wing commander on the line right now," he snapped at his helper as he headed for the door. "Tell him we have a code red at the dining area. Not a safety issue, a respect issue, and find the base sergeant major. I want him there in 5 minutes, no excuses." Back in the dining hall, Corporal Davis was riding high on having people watching him. He had her card. He had thrown doubt on who she was, and she had barely pushed back, just giving short answers. In his mind, he was succeeding. He read her silence not as the patient acceptance of a superior, but as quiet acceptance that she was lying. He decided to finish it, to land the final punch. "All right, ma'am, I've seen enough," he declared, putting her card in his pocket like he was collecting proof. "I'm not convinced. That jacket, those patches, that fake honor. You and I are going to walk over to the military police office. Falsifying an ID, pretending to be an officer, you're in serious trouble now." He gestured to his two buddies who, caught up in the drama, stood up and moved to block her path, effectively stopping her from leaving. The situation changed. It wasn't just words anymore. It was physical confinement. A low sound went through the crowd. A boundary had been crossed. The feeling in the room became electric with stress. Lauren Taylor simply looked at the three young Marines blocking her way, her face unreadable, and slowly set her napkin on her plate. Just as Davis started to say something else, the main doors of the dining hall burst open so hard they banged against the stops. The sound in the room died instantly like someone flipped a switch. Standing in the doorway was Colonel Matthews, his expression like a storm. Next to him was the base sergeant major, a giant man standing 64, his chest covered with medals from a long career. And just behind them was a brigadier general, the wing leader himself, a man whose appearance in a dining area was so rare it was almost unbelievable. They were joined by the master gunnery sergeant who'd made the phone call and a sharp-looking female lieutenant colonel from the general's office. The five of them moved as one, their boots making noise on the floor. They didn't look around the room, their eyes focused on one place, the small table by the window. Everyone in the dining hall, from brand new soldiers to the most experienced sergeants, froze, many halfway standing. Plates hung in the air. Forks stopped inches from mouths. This wasn't just officers. This was something extraordinary. Corporal Davis and his friends turned pale. Their boldness vanished, replaced by a deep, stomach-turning fear. Davis straightened his body so hard it seemed like his spine might snap. He tried to salute, but his arm felt impossibly heavy. The group of senior officers didn't even look at him. They walked straight past the terrified corporal directly toward the woman in the red jacket, who was slowly standing to her feet. Colonel Matthews stopped exactly 2 steps in front of her. His heels came together with a sharp sound, and he gave the most precise, most respectful salute Davis had ever witnessed. Major Taylor, the colonel's voice boomed, steady and clear in the dead silence. "On behalf of all of MCAS Miramar, I sincerely apologize for how you've been treated. It is truly an honor to have you here with us, ma'am." The word major hit Corporal Davis like a real blow. The word ma'am, said by a full colonel, made his legs almost give out. Everyone in the room was understanding it now. The woman in the flight jacket wasn't a wife. She wasn't a civilian. She was a high-ranking officer. She was a major. The brigadier general stepped ahead, the 1 star on his collar gleaming. He didn't look at Lauren. He stared directly at Corporal Davis, but his words were spoken so everyone could hear. "Corporal," the general started, his voice dangerously level, "you appear to have some doubts about this officer's qualifications. Let me make things clear for you and everyone present." He paused. "This is Major Lauren Taylor. Her call sign is Black Mamba, a name earned when she pulled a reconnaissance team out of a hot zone north of Sangin after she shot a precise line of 20 cannon fire that destroyed an enemy machine gun position just 25 feet from the Marines without injuring any of them. She has more than 600 combat flight hours in the FA-18 Hornet. She graduated from the Weapons and Tactics Instructor course, a school where nearly 1/3 of the pilots who try it don't make it through." He walked slowly around the table, looking at the shocked faces around the mess. "She has earned the Distinguished Flying Cross for an event when her aircraft was hit by a surface-to-air rocket. With a fire in her right engine and her main flight control systems completely down, she fought her aircraft out of a deadly spin and flew at 80 miles back to base, running on fumes. Most pilots would have jumped out. Her choice saved a $200 million military plane and, more critically, the secret information it held." He stopped, now standing beside Lauren. "She is not simply a pilot. She is an icon in marine aviation. The red jacket she is wearing is not a souvenir. The teachers at MAWTS-1 gave it to her when she came back as a visiting speaker. The patches on her jacket are not just medals. They represent the price she has paid, things you, Corporal, could never truly understand." The quiet that followed was overwhelming. The strength of the general's speech pressed down on everyone present. Davis was shaking, his face gone white. He looked at the woman he had just called a liar, and for the first time he actually saw her. He saw the quiet power he had thought was weakness, the calm control he had confused with surrender. The base sergeant major moved forward until he was face to face with Corporal Davis. His voice stayed soft, but his whisper was scarier than any yell could be. "You are a disgrace, Corporal, not just to your rank, but to the values of the Marine Corps you wear. You didn't see a Marine officer. You saw a woman and you made a snap judgment. You failed at the most basic part of being a leader. To judge by what you see, not by your prejudices. He moved even closer. You will give Major Taylor back her card right now. You will tell her you're sorry, and after that you and I will have a long, serious talk about whether you have a future in the Marines. Davis fumbled in his pocket, his hand shaking as he pulled out the card. He handed it to Lauren, unable to look her in the eye. "Ma'am, Major, I apologize." The colonel turned to Lauren. "Major, what just happened is completely unacceptable. If you want to file a complaint under military law for this public disrespect, you will have my complete backing." Everyone looked at Lauren. She took her card from the corporal's trembling fingers. She looked at his frightened face, at his friends' faces full of shame. Then she looked at the colonel. "That won't be needed, sir," she said, her voice now carrying through the whole hall. She turned back to the young corporal. "Standards exist to keep all of us safe. Don't lower them for anybody," she said, her tone serious but kind. "But more than that, never apply them unfairly based on what you think you're seeing. Look at the uniform, check the rank, show respect for the person. That's what matters." Her words were graceful and wise. She wasn't only a skilled warrior, she was a strong leader. As she talked about standards and justice, a brief moment came to her mind, not about fighting, but about after. The dark, rough landing pad at a forward military base. The sound of her broken engine shutting down. The ground chief, an experienced master sergeant, staring up at the torn back of her Hornet, then at her, his eyes full of both fear and wonder. He simply walked to her cockpit, looked directly at her, and spoke. "Ma'am, you fly with the luck of the devil and the aim of a black mamba." The name wasn't about being aggressive. It was about making it through. It was about staying calmly focused when everything is falling apart. It was a mark of the highest professional respect given through action and experience. In the following weeks, the story of what happened in the dining area became well known throughout Miramar. It was a warning story shared in barracks and pilot-ready rooms. Corporal Davis wasn't fired, but his chances for advancement became extremely difficult. He and his companions went through every training session on fair treatment and correct behavior, classes the base sergeant major personally led. The event led to a complete rewriting of the base's procedures for checking identification, with new attention to treating people well and staying calm. Around a month later, Lauren was leaving the base store with groceries. As she walked to her car, she heard an uncertain voice call her name. "Major Taylor." She turned. It was Corporal Davis. He was by himself, wearing normal clothes instead of his uniform. He stood stiffly like he was trying to show respect. "Major," she responded, keeping her tone steady. He looked uncomfortable, his eyes pointed at something beyond her shoulder. "Ma'am, I wanted to say sorry once more, and this time I really mean it." Without the sergeant major around, he finally looked at her face. "What I did was wrong. There's nothing that excuses it. I've been reading. I read the whole story behind your distinguished flying cross and some of the reports from your time in combat." He shook his head, real sorrow on his face. "I had no idea. I'm sorry." Lauren looked at him for a moment. He wasn't the cocky kid from the dining hall. The experience had changed him, matured him. She noticed something different in his eyes, the start of real understanding. "What's your specialty, Corporal?" she asked, speaking a little more gently. "Infantry soldier, ma'am, the 311 role," he answered. "Just got assigned to building security," she nodded. "Tough work. The Corps' strength comes from people like you. You need to keep yourself to that same high standard there." "Yes, ma'am, I'm trying." "Good," she said. She gave him a small smile that was barely noticeable. "Remember this experience, Corporal. Don't let it break you, but never overlook what you learned today. The finest Marines are the ones wise enough to learn from their mistakes. Now go ahead." He seemed shocked by how kind she was, by the way she gave him a chance to grow instead of staying angry. "Yes, ma'am," he stammered, then gave a slight respectful nod and walked away, his body a bit straighter than it had been before. Lauren watched him leave, then turned back toward her car. The sun was going down over the airfield, and she still had a new training plan to finish. There was always more work to do.